Hey everybody, welcome. Upstairs to the Right Music Channel, Sunday at Mike's. Welcome to everybody. Glad that you could make it this evening. Glad to be here. Um, where are we at this week? I is there anything to follow up on? I guess is the best place to start. Oh, uh, so um, as you know, when I went to the UK, I did that guitar trade with Colin. He recently put up a video documenting some of it, and I put that flying V up for consignment. It actually sold this week. Actually, hey, welcome. And and it went for the price that I wanted, so that we discussed at the beginning of that video. So that worked out. It was a good thing on that. So all's well that ends well in my mind on that. Um, Let me do a couple adjustments here. I'm going to bring myself a little bit closer. There we go. Yeah, that's the problem. I was too far away. Yeah, so that worked out. So I'm really happy, super happy about that. Super grateful. I want to thank those guys for making that happen for me. And yeah, it was a fantastic deal. So that's that. Now, as you know, I've kind of been on a pedal drought as of late, where I was like, there's just no way I'm going to buy any pedals. And I guess in this case, technically, I'm not too far off from that. I'm not actually buying, but I did do a trade with my pedal guy. As you know, I have a guy, and you can check him out. Guitar Pedals for You. You can search them on your World Wide Webs. And Guitar Pedals for You and Sprundle, which is about an hour or so away from here. And he and I have been trading back and forth for a long time. I guess you're figured out how to use your. Yeah, Uncle Carlton. Uncle Carlton's here, folks. Say hello to Uncle Carlton. He has joined into the live stream for tonight. That's fantastic. Good to see you, Uncle. But yeah, so there's a guy that I do trades with, and I traded a piece of equipment that I had that had been sitting around here in the studio for a long time. It was a Presonus mixer that I just wasn't using anymore. I bought it when I had the bigger studio in Singapore, in my house in Singapore, and I had to bring in a vocalist to do some work for a TV commercial. And I bought that just so that I could do monitoring a little bit more than the one man show that I was running. And that was all that I used it for. And it's been sitting around. And I was checking out Guitar Pedals for You website. And I saw that he had something that I have an interest in. As you guys know, I have been on this channel reviewing a lot of. Hey, Mickey, greetings. I've been reviewing a lot of pedals that have a built-in tube in them. So a 12AX7 tube. Hey, Bob! I'm glad you made it too. Boy, everybody's here. Hey, Bob, so glad you could make it, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, guys. And like for example, what was that? That was the Tone Monster pedal. And a couple of others that I've tried out that have a built-in 12AX7 vacuum tube in it. Basically, my whole major gripe with that type of pedal when it's trying to recreate the kind of tone sucker that you get going through, a tube, like you would in a regular tube amp, replicating that down to a small pedal, or in the case of that tube monster, a pedal of about that big. I have my questions about that because of the voltages that you really need to run through a vacuum tube in order to have that kind of effect on your tone, on your sound. In the case of the Tone Monster, we did that demo, so you can look back in my last videos, my past videos, and check it out. Where I swapped tubes in it to see if it made any difference in the terms of the tone of that, at least. And I had to admit that it did. I put in a vintage GE tube in it, and there was quite a significant difference in it in terms of its response, as opposed to the Chinese tube that it came with. And so there was that, but it really, still wasn't convinced that there was enough power. You need a lot of watts running through tubes like that in order to get that tube distortion. And so I had my doubts. Then I saw AMT came out with a line called the AMT brick line, and it features different amps, Fender amp, the replication of a Fender amp, a Marshall 800, JM 800, the usual suspects, and they run on a single tube as well. But supposedly they use a system where it's really running a lot of power through them, up to 250 to 300 volts, it was saying, which is interesting. So it's got to have some kind of converter there in order to take that 12 volts and bump it up, or at least to drive it that it's maxing out around that power range. So he had one in. He got one in. I got the one that is the AMT brick M lead. So this is replicating that Marshall. So this is the Marshall JM 800. And it is going to take the place of my Wampler Sovereign on my board for a minute, because as you know, I always wanted on my board here, my ampless pedal board here, I wanted it to be a 2-amp board. Right now it's got a great Fender sound going through it, but I still wanted a Marshall type pedal. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this AMT bricks, there's no info, dudes. I'm going to do a review on it simply because there's nobody that's reviewed it in English. It's a Russian-made pedal. Do I have any other pedals on my board? I thought I had. Yeah, I've got the Legends amp, the F1. So that's also from the same company as well, AMT. It's a Russian-made pedal. So it'll be joining my AMT Fender pedal. But not a lot of information on YouTube, but nothing. One guy that I was reading in one review said, I wish somebody would review this thing in English. So, I said, hey, that makes sense too. So I decided to make that trade. That will be coming in this week. And just, for kicks, I've been reviewing a lot of guitars. If you haven't checked it out, I just came out what makes a good Les Paul. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit more depth tonight. But anyway, the point of that is that I saw that it was a good opportunity, serve two masters there, so to speak, and I'm gonna go for it. So anyway, that's what's going on. To catch up what's going on with me this week. Always at the end of the month, and I guess I told you guys last, I was really pleased that I was able to put out a video. Seriously, if you haven't checked it out, what makes a good Les Paul, check it out. I just put it out the other day. But I was really hard pressed this week. I had a lot of paperwork to do. It's end of Q3, and you have to submit your VAT receipts. And so that was paperwork, just doing that kind of thing this week. But other than that, I checked out that video that Colin did. If you guys haven't seen it, if you don't know about it, go over to the Guitar Research channel. He did a video where he reviewed the guitar that I traded him for, that Stoner Les Paul, and also a little bit of our adventure on Denmark Street. So go to the Guitar Research channel, check that out, and what I'll try to do is I'll leave a link in this live stream as well, so you can click that later on. And it was funny just to see myself, and it's always weird to see yourself in that kind of light, and And so that's interesting. I'm glad I wore a lot of black. It's black is slimming. Actually, I guess I really don't have to worry about that too much. But Colin's a great guy. I'm glad that he put that video. Check it out. He loves that guitar. No kidding. I've got it sitting right here because we're going to talk about Les Pauls today. So, this is my Les Paul. This is the stoner Les Paul that I play. This is my guitar. I'm a one guitar kind of guy. I've moved over to Les Pauls now, and this is the Les Paul that I play, and I'm very pleased with it. It's a slight cut above the one that Colin traded that Flying V for with me, in the fact that this is not a veneer. The one that I traded with him has a veneer top. This one is a solid maple top. But I'm glad that we can segue so smoothly into tonight's subject. Let me take a look here. I have some notes that I'd like to use this evening. Yeah, I've been asking you guys to take the time in the comments section of the videos that I do, and even this live stream as well. If there's a subject or if there's a topic, if there's something that you want me to deep dive into, put it down in the comments section and I'll do it. And Ben Allmark, 9671, a good friend of this channel, said, "Hey Mike, why don't you talk about the Les Paul Tribute and the Les Paul Studios?" And what's my impression? And it's true. I actually I might mention them in passing, but I have not taken a deep dive discussion of my thoughts on them. And I know them both very well. So yeah, let's talk about that tonight. In my video that I just did, what makes a good Les Paul, and starting out what makes a Les Paul is where I started the video, and then what makes a good Les Paul I ended it with. But let's start with that first part. What makes a Les Paul? I took the time to go through an elementary explanation of what a Les Paul is in terms of its components to make a point, a deeper point that I'm sure maybe you guys caught on, and that is that it's the sum of the components of the Les Paul that make it so. In the case of this guitar, it's got a mahogany back. It's got a two-piece maple top. It has a mahogany neck, two humbuckers, but that I'm not even going to get into that. Well, let's just talk about the wood, the construction of the woods. Wood makes a big difference in the tone of a guitar, in my experience. Now, guys, I'm going to give you my thoughts. For example, an SG being made of all mahogany, it's a mahogany body with mahogany neck. That has you could take a set of humbuckers, Duncans or whatever you like, and you can put them in a Les Paul and then play that, record that, and then put it in an SG, same pickups, let's just say same harness as well, and all things being equal, and record that, and you will find that those are two different tones. And it's because of the wood. I made fun of the concept of tone woods, but only in a good wood, in the sense that the Gibsons from the 90s are the supposed good wood era, where if you guys haven't seen that video, it's pretty funny. It still holds up. It's hilarious, actually. Because the truth of the matter is that the Gibson woods back in the 90s were bad. They were terrible woods. They were using cheap materials, because they were going through financial issues, and it's the reason why PRS came up, because they were using better woods, and that's what their calling card was, and they ate Gibson's lunch at that time. But I don't make fun of the concept of tone woods. I am a strong believer in that. Of course, the wood is going. I got a good early example of that when I was a kid. I told you this story a few times, but I'll reiterate it. My friend Drake Gooseby was a guitar player, and he had a friend named Keith who was a guitar player, older than both of us. We were both like 16, and Keith was like 23. Well, why he was hanging out with a bunch of 16-year-old, I guess it was the love of music, whatever. I won't begrudge him that. He was an okay guy, a little bit of a crackhead. But anyway, he made his own guitar, and he made it out of oak. It was that, and that was a 14, 15 pound guitar. And only he could play it. You know, to this day, I'm amazed at the sounds he got out of that thing. But it did sound flat. It didn't have the ring, the tone of my guitar or Drake's guitar. We both had Squires. So I noted that even then that is it the weight I thought maybe that's a bit of it. Is it the wood? Nah, I didn't even think about that. But now that I'm a little bit older, I'm starting to think it's not. So I thought it was weight. Now I'm starting to think it was the wood, obviously. So what is my point? My point is that when you look at a Les Paul tribute and a Les Paul studio, I want you to keep in mind what those components are of what a Les Paul is. Okay. Now, in the case of a Les Paul studio, by the way, I'll let you know up front, if I had my choice, my druthers to purchase either one of those, I would go with the Les Paul tribute, but I'll build my case as to why that is. Um, the on a Les Paul studio, the thickness of a Les Paul studio varies between about 1/8 to about a quarter of an inch smaller, thinner. So, you have your basic components there still. You've got Mary Jane blowing in the air with Gibson Les Pauls, all Mary else who's saying, yeah, yeah. Let me get into that. So with the Les Paul Studio, you've got all the components there. You've got the maple back, the mahogany back, the maple cap, and the mahogany neck. But you have that shaving down. Now, it's interesting enough, the Les Paul Studio's thickness, like I said, it varies between a quarter of an inch and an eighth of an inch. You'll notice that your Epiphones are slightly thinner than a Gibson Les Paul standard too, or a Japanese import or something like this one next to me. You'll find that they're thinner too. Uh, so I just want to throw that out there so that you're aware of that. They're slightly different in that regard as well. But getting back to the Les Paul Studio, it's also weight relieved. Now, Gibson has a proprietary weight relief system that they use. And if you ever looked at it, it's not the Swiss cheese of old age where they... Hey, Anthony, welcome. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for showing up. It's not the Swiss cheese holes things. It's the Swiss cheese holes, and they do cross sections where they carve out that mahogany in order to lighten the guitar. And then of course the pickups, I do believe in the studio are the 490 and the 498T. I have to tell you, those are my favorite Gibson pickups. I love those pickups. Hey, the doc is in the house. Welcome, welcome. Hey, welcome, welcome. Welcome to all. And I love those pickups. So the studio has that one thing that attracts me to it going forward. It's got push-pull pots on it. I do believe there are also some models that come with P90s, but it is really, or is it maybe I'm confusing those. Maybe it's the studio that has the P90s. I'm sorry, guys. It's the Les Paul tribute that's got the 490 and the 498s. Okay. So in any case, it's everything that I talked about that makes up a Les Paul. However, in my personal taste department, it falls in towards the modern design of a Les Paul. It's got the cutaways, it's got the weight relief. It's got a lot of features to it that aren't traditionally what I would consider to be a Les Paul. You see where I'm getting at? I'm saying that a Les Paul there's certain things, and you want to try to get, in my opinion, as close to that traditional body style of the 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 68, 69. You want to try to get as close to that body style as possible. Now, you would say to yourself, oh, okay, then what about the Les Paul Tribute? I guess that's why you like it so much. And yes, it is correct. I think that, and it's cheaper too. The Les Paul Studio retails at $15.99 US. The Les Paul Tribute will go for $12.99. However, you can get those. Hell, I saw on, if you're interested, yeah, Mike. Some of my favorite Gibson pickups are the 490R best pups. Yeah, and I'm just being frank with you guys. The 490 and the 490 for 80R. Those are the best pickups that Gibson makes. I don't know about some of those really nice high. I haven't had a chance to play the custom shop pickups. Supposedly those are the cat's meow. They are the creme de la creme, so to speak. However, I just having played a lot of guitars with those 490s and 498s, man, I got to tell you, they're smoking, as you guys all agree. So we're all on the same page with that. And those come in the Les Paul Tribute. And that right there, is a selling point to me because you've got pretty doggone. You got sweet. You got half the game. I told you guys, half the game there is won when you got good pickups like those, and you don't need to swap them out. You don't have to worry about going and doing this, that, and the other. Those are it. Those things will cover every style of music that you want to do, and I love them. If I get to Japan, if I ever make it back to Japan anytime soon, which I plan to, I'm heading straight to my usual spot in Shibuya, and I'm going to go pick up a pair there because they're a lot cheaper to buy there. You can buy them. They sell them, for some reason, they sell them individually there. They have a wide choice of colors. So I'm looking for a double cream. They should have it. But I'm going to do that, and I'm going to put them over here in my Stoner Les Paul. But as it stands right now, I am happy with the pickups that are in there. But yeah, the Tribute is, in my opinion, now, one thing about the Tribute is the neck. Oh, also, and I should talk about that neck on the Les Paul Studio as well. The other reason why it's kind of an ant to me is because it has a slim taper neck. And again, I just feel as though you're not really having a Les Paul experience unless you're holding a half a baseball bat in your hand. not that bad. 58s, man. I have played some Japanese love rocks that were based on 58s, and the necks on I was like, my gosh, that is the thickest neck you could imagine. And I really, the 58 neck, no, but the 59 neck, that's where they got it right, in my opinion, because that 60 slim towards the end of the run of in the 60s, when right before they switched over to the SGs, that's too slim. It just got slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. Right there in the 59, like with the Epiphone 59, I've said before that's a great neck. This neck over here is exactly a duplicate of that 59 neck. And I really think that's where it's happening. I think that's where you want to go. And that slim taper neck on the Les Paul Studio, I can't play it. I can play them. If you're a guitar player, you should be able to play any neck, as I'm sure my Uncle Carlton will tell you, or remind me. But you do have preference. And the Les Paul Tribute is Gibson's best guitar ever, especially in 20. Well, yeah, and I'm going to get into that. So that's my statement about necks, because leading into from 2010 to 2018, and that 2018 being being the best, the creme de la creme of that run, believe it or not, those guitars came with a mahogany neck. Now they had it, Mike on my Epiphone 59 does that, everything about also. Yeah. Got you, Bob. But that maple neck is what trips me up on the run after 2018. I think that points toward where I started out talking about the things that make up a Les Paul, you got to have that mahogany neck. Yeah, the maple neck, it is what it is, but it even feels, it doesn't, there's just something about that. But from 2010 to 2018, it was a mahogany neck. So if you're going to get one, whichever, if you don't care about that, that's fine. But if you want one that is just the best thing that they ever did, as was pointed out just now, that 2010 through 2018 Les Paul Tribute is your best bet. And especially with those 490 and 498 pickups in it, you know, I like the trim. I like the bells and I like the bells and whistles. I like the binding. Um, I like some of the things that you get on Les Paul that you won't get on a tribute. However, at the end of the day, you know, a tribute would do. If I could find one that I like that falls within that range of 2018, 2010 to 2018, if I stumble across one that I like, and I am looking, and God knows I have enough shops that I get around to, so that's a serious look. Down to 3 Gibson Les Paul 20 traditional reissue and 74 custom. Hey man, that 74 custom is the bee's knees. I'm looking at a 75, but those things are creeping up. 67, depending upon the condition, between 65 to 8 grand on those things. Dig that, because the 70s guitars are about to become true vintage guitars. So when we hit 2030, all the 70s stuff all of a sudden becomes vintage. Now it's what does that make the you wonder, what is that going to make the 50s and 60s super vintage. But yeah, that's a fact. So those will just go up and up and up in value. So good on you for owning one of those. A good guitar to have. But a traditional with that mahogany neck, mahogany body, that maple cap, even love the color. You remember that from the movie? I even like the color. Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade. Anyway, it's quite a guitar. And I know I don't talk about them a lot on this channel because, my main focus are on Les Paul standards. And boy, howdy, did I get one in from Japan this week. I got an Orville Les Paul. If you guys know anything about it. Excuse me, my cat wants out. Go. Go. Sorry, guys. Excuse the interruption. As you know, it's a cat high. Definitely like the Gibson Studio over the Gibson Standard, but we're more careful. Well, the Studio's not a bad guitar. If for recording purposes, you've got a lot more options with the Les Paul Studio. That's what it has. I mentioned that it has those push-pulls on it, which, by the way, guys, guess what? I also have push-pull on this coil splitting. That's a great feature to have because it just makes your sonic. I love how the bells and whistles, the love and for sure, but yeah, I hear you, Bob. It's the bells and whistles, man, but you don't need them. You'd be straight, as I said, with just buying that Les Paul Tribute. But as I was alluding to just now, with that Studio, you have a lot more sonic possibilities with it. It truly is what it is. It's a studio guitar. Is it a Les Paul? Close enough, I suppose. It has all the main components to it, so yeah. And the Tribute as well, like I said, if you can get it with that mahogany neck. I draw the line. I myself am not a fan of the maple neck on that guitar. I think that it changes the tone ever so slightly, softens it a bit. And some of the examples that I've played, but the ones with the mahogany neck, it's a Les Paul without the bells and whistles. Bob, as Bob was talking about there, and you can't go wrong. And it's cheaper too. My gosh, $12.99. I saw. Has anyone heard of Segovia guitars? Japanese Gibson also 277. Yes, yeah, absolutely. There is a website you can look up that talks about vintage Japanese guitars, and they run down the whole history of those. Worth checking out, and thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, that gets into it. That gets into what I was talking about Japanese constructed guitars like this one. It's the fit and finish, guys. It's the attention to detail that they pay to their when they're putting these together that really makes the difference, regardless of the price. It's just a dedication that you'll find slipping at Epiphone and even Gibson USA sometimes. Hell, at Gibson USA, they didn't even have enough lights up in the ceiling until the new regime came in to even see what they were doing. There's no wonder there were so many factory duds. Jeez, can you imagine? I'm not kidding. They literally didn't have enough light bulbs in the factory ceilings. They couldn't see what they were doing. It's dark in there. That's crazy. New management came in and said, "Hey, I've got a great idea. Why don't we put some light bulbs in here so we can see what the hell we're doing?" Bingo. Right answer. Well, this is a good start. But the attention to detail that the Japanese put into the guitars really makes a difference. And boy, they're starting to come up. I'm starting to slowly see those Tokai guitars and even some of the newer Love Rocks and some of those models and stuff like that. Well, this one is a one-off, so there'll be no more of these, but of this ilk, of that same ilk. I had an Orville Les Paul custom many moons ago. It was great, but 11 pounds. Yeah, this Orville. So yeah, I was getting into that. Sorry, I was digressing on my digressions. So yeah, boy, did I get a Les Paul in this week in the mail. It took 6 weeks. 7 weeks. My guy mailed it at the end of last month, and it sat in customs for a month. It sat in customs. It took 2 weeks. Yeah, it's about 6 weeks it took. Sat in customs for a month before they even sent me notice that. And I knew it was there, but it just took a month. So that kind of sucked. At first I thought it got stolen because I didn't hear anything and nobody could find it. And generally this process takes about 3 weeks, maybe 4 to bring something over from Japan. When it got to the month mark, 5-week mark, me and my guy in Japan were like, "Oh, well, I guess we finally lost one." Oh, but we insured, of course. But it turned up. It's a Orville. It is a 1993, to the best that I can date it. They stopped making them in 97. So, but I think just looking at it, it's a 93 Orville. There's a difference between Orville by Gibson and Orville Les Paul. The Orville Les Pauls were for domestic consumption in Japan. And most of the Orville by Gibsons as well, but a lot of those went out. But anyway, it is quite an instrument. It is quite an instrument, and to be able to compare, 30 years difference between that one and this one over here, roughly, and see that construction value still there. So that's something. You could take a Chinese guitar from the same period of 30 years ago, a Squire, for example, if it was made, or the early Epiphones made in China, compared to an Epiphone today, and you would see that it got better. The Japanese, is what I'm trying to say, have remained consistent with their construction values over that same 30-year period, and of course they had, 30 years before that. So I guess all of this is just to say that you can't go wrong if you get a Japanese made guitar. Now, that leads, how are we doing tonight, by the way? Where are we at? Good. We're doing good. Excellent. How is everybody out there? What are you drinking out there? Tonight, I am drinking probably the most noxious cocktail you can imagine. No alcohol cocktail, but it's basically 10 different kinds of syrup with juice on top of that. So I'm trying to send myself into a diabetic heart attack here. But I needed a little bit of a pick-me-up, so I thought I'd give it chai latte. That's right. Depends upon the time of day or where you're at. Although, I myself, I'm not affected by caffeine. I could down a chai latte this time of night over here, and it wouldn't affect my sleep because I'm kind of unfortunately, a poor sleeper. I'm a little bit of I always have been. I guess that's why the musician's life kind of suited me. But it doesn't. Caffeine doesn't make a difference, make or break me either way. Yeah, kind of an insomniac a little bit, guys. Just a little bit insight into me. My sleeping is terrible. If I get 4 or 5 hours, that's a good night. But it helped me in my previous lives, especially when I was a studio runner in LA, because they knew they'd call me whenever, and that's how I met Brian Austin Green, because I got a call at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. Hey, we need you to go to the studio, Babyface's studio, pick up a piece. Same here, Mike. Caffeine doesn't affect me. Yeah, Mickey, dig that. It's not everybody. It's just like, it's like catnip. Some cats, you put some catnip in front of them, they'll just go like, batshit crazy. Other cats, they'll pass on it. It's just one of those things. But yeah, they said you gotta call me at 1 o'clock in the morning, come down to Babyface Studio, pick up this Moog or something. I forget it was Moog rack or something, or whatever it was, and take it to Westlake. And I said, sure, no problem. Got my car. Studio guy Dave was there, handed it to me, and I drove up the street to Westlake. And Brian Austin Green was there recording, drinking peach. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. That sounds healthy. I couldn't even pronounce half the words there. So it's got to be good. Yeah, and he was cool. I got to set up and actually did a little bit of second work, just because of the fact that I was awake. I was there. But now, I drink this juice. It's good enough for me. I'm on a new diet. I can't have any dairy, and so milk is. I used to like milk. Cheese. It's ironic. I'm living in like the cheese capital of the world, and I can't eat it with this diet. And the diet is just things that will trigger my little thing. And I'm not allergic to it. I can eat them, and they don't bother me in the way they would most people who are allergic to dairy. It just does something else. But that's kind of a shame because I'm missing milk. I really am. But maybe at my age, it's time to stop drinking that stuff. What does that Prince used to say? Milk is for calves. Okay, maybe he's right. But yeah, guys, I am seeing some alarming stuff out there, guys. I don't like to be the doom and gloom kind of guy, but holy moly's, I am getting offers now that I never got this before. I don't know if there's a new function on Reverb or if these guys are getting more. I'm getting on average now about 3 or 4 offers a week on equipment, on guitars. Where in some cases, and that was another one of my digressions. I saw a Les Paul Studio with a case, with a Gibson case, for $1,000 plus shipping. As I said before, those things go for $15.99 usually, and this guy can't give it away. Nobody's interested in it. If you're interested, go to the My Les Paul forum, go to the classified section, and take a look. The guy is selling his Les Paul Studio. It is a beauty. It's that kind of burnt brown, I guess, or mahogany reddish kind of tabletop. Looks like you could serve dinner. Just put a napkin on it, flip it over in between sets, and have a fancy dinner on it. It's beautiful wood. It's a beautiful guitar with a beautiful case. $1,000. Wow, it's a third off that price. More, almost more than a third off. But that seems to be the way things are. And he's like, you're going to read it. He says, please, somebody take this off my hands. But it's not moving. And I'm getting all these offers. Now, we've been here before, the 2008 to 2010 period, especially if you bought vintage guitars in the 2006 2007 period, the run up to that 2008 crash, I was living in the UK at the time. That's when I was living in that haunted house from that period, 2005 to 2008. And the vintage guitar market was heated. Just like a lot of other markets, the gold and precious metal markets were starting to heat up. You had guys calling you up, hey, buy these vintage coins. By the way, guys, as a side note, this has nothing to do with guitars. If anybody ever calls you up and wants to sell you vintage gold coins at any kind of markup or premium other than than spot, hang up the phone. They're trying to roust you, man. They were selling. I know this because I knew a guy, Drake, who I mentioned before. He was working for one of those gold line type places, and they were, selling these gold coins to folks, saying, "Well, these are old gold coins, old Britannias," and double charging them, double a spot price. So the same thing was happening with vintage guitars. Is the point of that story? Is that a lot of the vintage guitar guys were like, "Hey, the market's flush, money is big, and these vintage guitars will earn you 10%," which is true. Some of them, I've alluded to that, will gain you about 10% above. They'll fight the price of inflation. Some of them. Ask Joe Bonamassa. He owns most of them. But some guitars, some of that stuff will fight inflation. However, most of it won't. And so they were selling these at incredible markups, and then the market fell out from everybody. And it took up until this point, really, honestly, it took about 10 years or so, to about 2018, 2019, for that market to start to recover again. Now, I am in this game, as you know. I am putting a pause myself on buying through the month of August and until September. I won't be buying any new guitars because, as I told you, I need to build up my powder a bit because the way things are going. I think by September I can get some excellent deals. I can build some stock, and if I can sit on it, then it'll be all right. Unfortunately, that means that somebody down the line is going to be taking a massive hit. Even at $1,000, that's not, if he was offering, and it's this bad, guys, I'll be honest with you, but from my standpoint, I'm looking at, for an interest for me, that Les Paul Studio would have to be around $800 before I took an interest in it with the case. Just from that a small, dealer standpoint, that's kind of the way I would look at that, because of what I would have to do to make money on it. So it's bad out there. It's bad. If you're selling, and all these guys are, all the time on Reverb, but hey, Mike, even the pedal market. I'm seeing my friend that I just did swap with. He's discounting a lot. People aren't buying. A lot of stuff is not moving. Stuff is not moving, and it reminds me again of that fall of 2008 period. But this time I think it's slightly worse because that was a normal production years during that time. During COVID, production got halted. Then people were placing massive orders because there was a massive demand. Demand died off, the orders started getting filled, and now you have a lot of guitars sitting. Got a lot of products sitting there. A lot of inventory for manufacturing. We talked about this. We talk about this all the time. There's a lot of stuff for guys to burn off in the shops. So why would you buy something at this price used when you can get it at this price in the shop new? Because the shop's not making any money off of it. They just got to burn off their inventory. And it's a bad time because things aren't moving. Even in that light, things aren't moving. So what is the point of all this? Where am I getting to with this? These are dark times. They are. I'm not going to, I don't want to, this is dismal. This is pretty good. It's good. And it's not surprising. Well, it is surprising me. I've been talking about it for years now. Since we started doing live streams here, I've been talking about this a year or so now. And I saw it coming, but to actually see it and to experience it, I don't know how you guys out there feel. That's a whole different show. That's a whole different thing. And this market right now, and I'm sure in the golf club market, there may be some guy out there on the golf club channel on YouTube talking about, oh guys, you get those Wilkerson clubs now for half off. The market's dying. It's dismal. But I bring up golf clubs because unfortunately I've had my opinion, and I am of the opinion that we're talking about luxury items here with guitars, like golf clubs. Don't have to have golf clubs unless you want to play golf. Well, you don't have to have a guitar unless you want to play guitar. You don't have to really do either one of those things in order to live, per se. You can make a living off of them if you're Tiger Woods or Slash, but you get my point. So, yeah, dig that. And, you know, if you're, again, and I'm going to touch on this and then I'm going to move on to the next thing, but I did want to bring it up because it's amazing to me how many offers I'm starting to get and how things aren't moving. And even I'm all right because, again, like I said, the euro to the yen exchange is really good. So I can cut to the bone and still walk away with something. A lot of these cats out here, and I'm bringing in stuff, quite frankly, that is rare. It's something that is not run of the mill. So it catches more attention and eyes. That's also kind of my script, my thinking on these types of things. So, but even I have to recognize that there's only so far that I can go before it just won't move, and it's pretty dismal. And so, hang on to keep your powder dry. The next coming months, if you're looking for that Christmas guitar, if you're saying, hey, this Christmas, I know I'm 5 months out, but it's this kind of thinking that will make a difference between having a Merry Christmas and a so-so one, uh, you know, a Grinch Christmas, is start thinking about saving up if you're in the market to buy something or get something for the end of the year. And not only will you have the money in order to do that, but the bargains and the discounts that you will see coming up going forward will make you glad that you're in that position. Do not be in the position right now to be selling just general stock fenders. I had the numbers, and that's where I want to go to next. Well, I'll tell you what, I have the numbers in my mind. I don't even have to look it up. Guys, the number of Fender guitars that have been sitting. This is a different subject. So next, a new subject, but related to the last one in a way. I looked up the stats of how long things have been sitting, not selling, on Reverb. Just kind of looking into that, doing a little deep dive. What models have been sitting there for over a year? Same sellers, same models, things like that. And Fenders right now and PRSs are really in your worst thing that you'd want to be selling right now. This is not a market and I'm talking about from top to bottom. It actually gets a little bit worse the more expensive a Fender or PRS gets. Every week I like to dig into some numbers of a different subject and look into that. And I don't even have to look at it. Because it just burned into my brain. Stay away from Fenders in terms of trying to sell those things. And I don't know, well, maybe I do know. It's got to be because there's a glut of them out there. And with the new American Pro 2 series coming out and the pricing on that, the price increases and things of that nature, it is really astounding that Fender is, in some regards, shooting themselves in their own foot, I think. I don't know what it is they have in mind. I don't know who the heck it is they're selling to. I told you before, 100 people buy a guitar, kids, parents, adults. Hey, I'm going to get, let's say, during the coof. during COVID. 100 people bought a guitar, only 10% of them are continuing on to this day. The other 90% of them, they're not playing anymore. And those guitars are sitting around. And that gets into why the secondary market is the way it is, the used market. But anyway, uh, it's that 10% that you're marketing to. And if you keep rising prices on that 10%, then that case you're looking for the 10% of that 10% to be your client, which I talked about last week. I alluded to that. Last week I talked about Fender opening up their custom shop in Ginza in Japan because they are marketing to that 10% of the 10%. And believe it or not, I think Gibson and Epiphone as well in some ways. But anyway, but still, it is amazing how those are not moving at all. It's like, you know, people buy a Fender and then I guess that's it. They're not interested in trading them. The PRSs, I think they overproduce those. I really think that they put out too many models. The SE model, I understand why they did that, but I think it kind of degraded their brand. I don't know. Not degraded, but dilute. What's the word I'm looking for? It sort of muddied the waters with their brand a little bit because I always held them in a certain regard, and then the Indonesian made balls, as great as they are, and some of I played them, they're well made, but in my mind, it kind of brought them down a little bit. But that seems to be the opinion of the market as well, because as I said, they're just not moving. You know, if you bought an SE and you bought it to play, and that was your guitar, and that was it, then you're good. If you bought it, you played, and you're saying, I want to trade it in for something else, you're hurting right now on that trade. Either trying to sell it yourself or taking it into a shop. And that's the same thing with the Fenders as well. So, interesting things. Yeah, those numbers were really shocking. And it led me to start thinking, well, okay, what is moving? What are the ones that are moving? Let's take a look at that. And I was surprised to see that Gibsons aren't doing so bad. Epiphones, and they will go hand in hand, but it is Gretches that seem to be doing well. The Gretsch guitars seem to be picking up a little bit of steam out there. The turnaround on those is pretty good. That means you can buy a Gretsch and you can pretty much well guarantee to yourself that you get a good resale value on it. And if you wanted to sell it, you could probably turn that around a lot quicker than you are a Fender or a PRS in this case. A lot faster, significantly. So it is not all dire and dismal out there. There are guitars that people are moving, that people are interested in, but the markets are shifting. The winds are shifting. And I think those winds are shifting. Again, looking at Fender, just singling them out, is with this price increase that takes effect this coming Tuesday, yet another price increase, if their strategy, and it seems to be more marketing to that 10% of the 10%, fine, that's great. But the winds have changed where everybody else, that other 90% of the 10%, if you follow me, us normal guys, us regular folk, we're like, I'm out. I'm done. I'm going to move on to something else. And some of these other manufacturers, Gretsch, it seems to are picking up some of that slack. People, let me take a look at that Jet Dual. Let me take a look at those guitars and see what's up with those. I know I have. And with that Diamond, which is kind of which was a prototype type Gretsch design. Really hit me to that. I was digging that. That was the first guitar in a while that I've had that I was kind of digging. So there's that, guys. The winds are changing, and the popularity of certain brands is certainly shifting, and it's the economics of it. The whole purpose of that video that I put out this week, what makes a good Les Paul, another purpose of that was, and I stated in there, is that Gibsons are getting to be astronomical in terms of their price, because again they're shifting their model over towards, what the hell does a jean jacket, or what is, when you walk into the Gibson custom shop, they're trying to sell you your clothing, it's a lifestyle kind of thing. And for a common musician, the lifestyle is, can I buy a pack of smokes? Can I get, something to eat tonight? And, do I have enough gas to get to the gig? I'm not, that's, at least it was for me, when I was, well, no, in Japan, anyway, that was a whole different set of problems. But yeah, it's not for me. It's nothing. I'm not interested in a Gibson jacket or hat or any of that other stuff. Hell, at those prices, I'm not interested in their guitars anymore. Except for the Tribute. That is the only one that, like I said, that is the only viable Gibson that I am interested in buying going forward. Period. And I'm not going to really deviate. As you guys know me, if I say something, I'm pretty good track record and I stick to it. I'm not interested. But because they're not talking to me, it's not something that's for me. Why would I do that when I can get something like this for a fraction of the price, and it's better made, better electronics? I don't know if you saw that video of Colin, the guitarista, where he opens up his Stoner guitar and takes you a look in the back, and you see those real orange drop capacitors, and you see the quality of the CTS pots in there. When you see the attention to detail and how good it is, how well it's put. Why the hell would I do that? Because if I buy a Les Paul Studio Standard, I'm going to have to go and buy a 50s wiring harness or do it myself, or have Fern, actually Truto had Fern do it, or do some other things in order to get it to where this is already for a third of the price. A third of the price, roughly. Why would I do that? Why? So I have no interest in Gibson Les Pauls anymore, because those prices, it's ridiculous. What's the difference between that 2019 Les Paul that they were retailing at $1,900 compared to the 2023 one? Same guys making it, and you can't tell me that there's been $1,100 worth of inflation that time. From the UK, interesting discussion about a Sire L7 and every bit. Yeah, that's and I'm a preacher of that. I am now a minister of the alternative Les Paul. Bless you all. Because I am done with it, man, because it's obviously that's what they're pointing to. They're like, screw you guys, the working musicians who made us and made our name. Screw you guys. We're going for that 10% of the 10% of our audience. That 10%, of course, which representing the guys who can afford it, and some of those guys may be musicians, but most of them are not. They're collectors of various different levels of our society, but the upper society. You can find an excellent Les Paul at a third of the price that does more, that give you more. This thing has a long neck tenon, by the way, in it. Got push ball, everything that that the Les Paul standard Gibson does not have. That is considered, that they'll charge you $5,000 more for if you want to get that long neck tenon in their custom shop. That that's a drug dealer gives you a free sample. Next sample, I'll give you a discount on it. After that, it's full fucking price. Excuse my language, guys. But I'm just trying to show you what that model was. It is. What am I saying? Well, I'm not saying anything really. I'm just pointing out, making observations, things that I have seen and observed in my travels this week and beyond before that. But it is disturbing to me. But again, like I said, I'm a preacher of the Church of Alternative Les Pauls. I'm a Les Paul player now. I switched over from Telecasters. Then I only play one guitar. I'm a one guitar guy as well. I have all kinds of guitars going through, but that's a business aspect. My own personal life, I have one guitar. I know it intimately. I know it very well. I've got it set to the way I like it. When I pick it up, I know exactly what to expect, and my fingers are well acquainted with it. And therefore, I'm spending more time concentrating on my playing and my skill set because, I have my Uncle Carlton that, I don't want to embarrass myself in front of. So I have to take the time. So I'm not worried about this guitar. I gotta have this one, or what's this new model, or things like that. In my personal life, and in terms of recording with it, with that push pull function on it, it's giving me a lot of the tones that I got out of my Telecaster anyway. It's a very very risky when it comes to move away from audience that made them. Beware. Well, we saw that, guys, with what happened with PreSonus in Studio One. Um, where they told all of us, not Studio One, I'm sorry, Waves, with Waves, when they were telling us, Personas as well, when they were telling us, so they didn't go as bad with Personas, but Waves, when they told us, hey, screw you guys who had these lifelong contracts with us in order to have this hardware stuff that you purchased from us. We're moving on to a lifetime subscription thing where you will own nothing. You don't own this. You can rent it for us for $25 a month, but you don't own this. And then they had to backtrack on that. But guys, I tried it. I sat down for an entire afternoon, 4 or 5 hours. Gibsons are just following the money. Yeah, of course, that's the name of the game. I sat there for 4 or 5 hours trying to get because they said I can get my own license and my stuff back. I could not get it to happen. I couldn't get it to happen. I lost all that stuff, and I'm done. With that, for a lot of reasons. Really pissed me off. A lot of money I invested in that. Gretchen makes really good cigars. I have two electromagnets, double cut hard body, and I have never. Yeah, they're fantastic. I had the pleasure, of course, in Japan. Gretchen's a producer, so the Japanese ones I've played quite a few of them. Really great. But anyway, it's my little rant there about how that's what they're doing. They're moving us onto not a good space. And then there's the people that they really are trying to reach to. That it's meaningless to them one way or the other. But I am for the working man musician. Coming from a family of working men musicians, I do, and I'm proud of it. I'm extremely proud of it. And when I see this, I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. That's where I'm good. It comes from. It comes from that. I'm good. Okay, I'm good. You want to do that? I'm good. I'm going to move on. There's greener pastures elsewhere. So, check out the alternatives is what I'm saying. And people are getting hip to that. When you can't sell a Les Paul Studio at $1,000 on a Les Paul form, something's wrong. There's something wrong there. Hell, if that, is that going to be corresponding to a Les Paul tribute? And am I going to be able to find a tribute for $600? That would be awesome. I'd snap that up in a minute. But I don't know. We'll see. That tells me that maybe, but I haven't seen that, so that tells me that maybe that Les Paul Studio should have been down more towards the price of that Les Paul tribute. But anyway. So what's coming up this week, guys? This week, I am going to review that AMT Bricks. I'm going to go through its paces. I'm going to run it through my Laney amp through the back end, and I'm also going to run it here on my ampless pedal board so we can see how it works in both situations. So yes, we are actually going to be doing a pedal review. I haven't done that in a long time. Actually kind of I'm glad I've taken so long to do it because I'm actually looking forward to it now. It will be a pleasure to do. The channel was growing, guys. I am very close to hitting 2,000 subscribers. Now, for the big channels, the 60, 50, 60,000 subscriber channels, Yeah, um, I would like to get there someday, but I'm doggone proud of this 2000 that I got organically. Didn't do Instagram, didn't do Facebook. I don't do any of that stuff. I just consistently put out content talking about the things that I'm interested in, discussing the things that I, consider, that I ponder upon, and sharing them with you. So, um, I want to thank you for getting me here to, we'll hit 2,000 here this week with any luck. If you haven't subscribed yet and you're watching this, be a part of making that history for this channel and hit the subscription button. Get us, we're about 70 away, 70 or 80 away. So very close, very close. And I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you for getting to I kept my end of the bargain. I'm here every week bringing you something, and you guys have kept your end of the bargain. You have showed up and supported this channel. And thank you. I always like to end on a positive note. And so that will be it for this evening. So look forward to that. I'll be doing a pedal review of that AMT Bricks and see if that meets, if I like it and it works out. Hey, thank you very much. Guys, without, and seriously, we're going to do, we just need to talk about the guys who've been here from the beginning. And, and Bob, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you were able to show up, Bob, because, I read your comments down in the comments, even though they're long. But when I see it, it cheers me up, man, to know that you're still out there and that you're watching. And Mickey and Ben, all you guys, everybody that's, yeah, Anthony, all you guys, Doc, all you guys, you've made this happen. It's growing and it's really happening. And so let me continue to keep my end of the bargain and bring you stuff that's entertaining and interesting, and keep it interesting. I need to improve my production values. One thing hanging around with Colin, that guy had, if you see that video, I didn't know it, but he had 3 cameras going on. He had that room where we were interviewing, he had it lined up with 3 cameras. So that was kind of cool. I was able to just sit against the wall and describe the wireless microphones. That was pro stuff. Colin is, you can tell, this is the reason why his channel is where it's at. But I think I need to up my production values a little bit. So maybe we'll see some investment in that coming up here. But for a one-man, one-camera operation, I think I've done so well to this point, so I can't begrudge myself too much. Thank you guys for showing up this evening. If you haven't watched the video, What Makes a Good Les Paul, check that one out. If you're watching this live in the rerun, hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the comment section. If there are subjects, like tonight's subject that was recommended to me down in the comment section, do so, and I will pick that subject up next time. And until the next one, you guys be good, pay it forward, be good to each other, be good to your loved ones, and we shall see each other next week. Take care. Bye-bye.